Hey guys, tonight we're going to step back about 2,600 years. Not to a battlefield or a throne room, but to something quieter, something more human. We're going to wake up in ancient Babylon, the greatest city on earth at the time. And we're going to spend an entire day there, slowly, gently, just living. No conquests, no kings, just you in a small mudbrick house as the first light touches the Euphrates River. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, drop a comment telling me where you are in the world right now and what time it is. I love knowing that someone in Tokyo is drifting off while someone in Sao Paulo is just starting their evening. We're all here together in the dark, crossing centuries. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to warmth, not the sharp heat of midday, but the gentle, amber glow of dawn seeping through a narrow window. Your home is small, one main room, maybe two if your family has done well. The walls are thick mud brick, sun-baked and smooth, the color of honey and dust. The floor is hard-packed earth, covered here and there with woven reed mats. Above you, wooden beams support a flat roof where, on summer nights, you sometimes sleep under the stars. But not last night. Last night you stayed inside, and now you're waking in the cool morning air before the heat arrives. You can hear the city already stirring. Distant voices, the shuffle of sandals on stone, the soft bleat of a goat somewhere down the alley. Babylon is enormous, home to perhaps 200,000 people, though historians still argue whether that number is accurate or inflated by ancient pride. Either way, it's more people than you can imagine. More than any city you've ever heard of. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes. There's a clay jar in the corner filled with water. You pour a little into a small bowl, splash your face. The water is cool, drawn yesterday evening from the canal that runs 2 streets over. Babylon is a city of water. The Euphrates River cuts through its heart, and canals branch out like veins, bringing life to gardens, homes, and fields. Without them, this place would be dust. Your clothes are simple. A long linen tunic, undyed, soft from wear. You pull it over your head and tie a woven belt at your waist. No shoes yet. Those come later if you're going far. For now, bare feet on cool earth. You step into the small courtyard at the center of your home. Most houses in Babylon are built this way. Rooms arranged around an open square of sky. It's where you cook, where you wash, where your children play. There's a potted date palm in one corner, barely taller than you, its fronds casting thin shadows. A wooden bench, a grinding stone, a small clay oven, everything you need. Above, the sky is turning from deep blue to pale gold. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the low, resonant call of a priest from the Sagila, Babylon's greatest temple. It's a sound you've heard every morning of your life. A reminder that the gods are near. That Marduk, king of the gods, watches over the city. You take a breath. The air smells like earth, smoke, and something sweet, maybe bread baking in a neighbor's oven. And you think, just for a moment, how strange it is to be alive. To be here, in this place, in this time. Babylon, the center of the world. Your home. You stand in your courtyard, barefoot, feeling the coolness of the earth beneath you. The city is waking fully now. You can hear doors opening, voices murmuring, the scrape of pottery. But here, in your small square of sky, there's stillness. A moment before the day truly begins. You walk to the corner where a small clay shrine sits on a wooden shelf. It's no bigger than your hand. A figurine of Marduk, crudely shaped but carefully kept. Every household has something like this. A god. A goddess, a protective spirit. You bow your head slightly and whisper a prayer. Nothing formal, just a quiet thanks for the night's rest, a request for safety, for bread, for health. The gods are everywhere in Babylon, in the temple, in the street, in your home. They're not distant. They're woven into every breath. Historians still argue whether ordinary Babylonians truly believe the gods lived inside their statues, or whether the statues were simply symbols. But standing here in the soft morning light, it doesn't really matter. Belief is belief. And you believe. Your stomach stirs. Time for the first meal. You move to the clay oven in the courtyard, a rounded structure, waist-high, still warm from yesterday's fire. You crouch and add a handful of dried reeds and a few pieces of dung fuel. Yes, dung. It's what everyone uses. Dried animal dung burns slow and steady. And in a place where wood is precious, it's practical. You strike a flint, coax a flame, and soon the fire is crackling softly. While the oven heats, you reach for a clay jar filled with barley. Barley is life here. Wheat exists, but barley is cheaper, heartier, and everywhere. You scoop a handful into a wooden bowl, add water from another jar, and set it over the fire to cook. Barley porridge, the breakfast of millions. It's not glamorous, but it fills you. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you add a little date syrup for sweetness, or a pinch of salt. Today, just barley and water. While it bubbles, you sit on the bench and wait. The sky above is brightening. Pale blue now, streaked with high, thin clouds. You think about the day ahead, work to do, errands to run, people to see. But not yet. Not yet. There's a strange little fact that scholars love to mention about ancient Babylon. They had recipe tablets, actual clay tablets with cooking instructions written in cuneiform. Some of the oldest recipes in human history. Stews, breads, meat dishes. One tablet describes a lamb stew so complex it requires multiple steps, herbs, and careful timing. It's oddly comforting to know that people 4,000 years ago also worried about getting dinner right, that they wrote things down, tested them, shared them. You wonder if your grandmother ever used a recipe tablet. Probably not. She learned by watching, by doing the way you did. But somewhere in this city, in a temple library or a wealthy merchant's home, those tablets exist. Proof that food mattered, that flavor mattered, that life wasn't just survival, it was also taste. The porridge is ready. You pour into a clay bowl, thick and steaming. You eat slowly, with a wooden spoon, savoring the warmth. It's bland, yes, but it's yours. Outside, you hear a neighbor's voice calling to someone down the street. A child laughs. A dog barks once, then stops. Babylon is a symphony of small sounds. You finish your meal, set the bowl aside, and pour a little more water into your hands. You wash your face again, your arms, the back of your neck. Cleanliness is important here, not in the obsessive way of some cultures, but in a practical, daily way. You rinse. You wipe. You feel ready. You stand, stretch, and look up at the sky one more time. The sun is climbing now. Soon it will be hot. But for now, the air is perfect, soft, breathable, alive. You slip on your sandals, simple leather straps, worn smooth, and step toward the door. The day is calling, and you're ready to answer. You step through your doorway and into the street. Immediately, the city surrounds you. Narrow, crowded, alive. The street is barely wide enough for two people to pass without turning sideways. Mudbrick walls rise on either side, their surfaces smooth and sun-baked, the color of pale sand. Some homes have small windows high up, squares of darkness against the brightness. Most have none. Privacy is built into the architecture here. You turn left, heading toward the market. You know the way by heart. Every corner, every worn stone, every place where the ground dips slightly from centuries of footsteps. The path is packed earth, dry and dusty. In winter it becomes mud, thick and clinging, but now, in the warm season, it's firm beneath your sandals. You pass a neighbor sweeping her doorstep with a bundle of reeds tied together. She nods. You nod back. No words needed. Just the small acknowledgement that you both exist, that you're both moving through the same morning. Ahead, a man is leading a donkey loaded with clay jars. The animal moves slowly, almost reluctantly, and the man murmurs something to it in a low, patient voice. You step aside to let them pass. The donkey's ears flick. Its shadow stretches long across the wall. You catch the scent of something sweet, dates, maybe, or dried figs, and you glance toward an open doorway where an old woman sits weaving a basket. Her hands move with automatic precision, fingers dancing through the reeds. She doesn't look up, doesn't need to. She's done this 1,000 times, 10,000 times, and her hands know the rhythm without thought. There's a certain eccentric charm to Babylon streets that historians love to point out. The layout is chaos. No grid system, no master plan. Streets twist and turn, widen and narrow, dead end without warning. It's the opposite of Roman cities with their straight lines and perfect order. Babylon grew organically, over centuries, each generation building where there was space, and the result is a labyrinth. Locals navigate it instinctively. Visitors get hopelessly lost. And you? You've lived here your whole life. You could walk to the market blindfolded. You turn another corner and the street opens slightly. Here, the walls are painted, faded blue and ochre, designs that might once have been flowers or stars but are now mostly worn away. A child runs past, barefoot, laughing, chasing something you can't see. Another child follows, smaller, struggling to keep up. Their voices echo off the walls and then fade as they disappear around a bend. The sun is higher now. You can feel its weight beginning to press down. In an hour, it will be uncomfortable. In 2, unbearable. But right now it's just warm. Pleasant, even. You pass a small shrine built into a wall, a niche with a tiny clay figurine inside, and a few wilted flowers someone left as an offering. You touch your fingers to your lips, then to the wall beside it. A gesture, a habit, a connection to something larger. The smell of bread reaches you before you see the baker's stall. Flatbread, baking on hot stones, the scent rich and yeasty and impossible to ignore. Your stomach stirs, even though you ate not long ago. Bread is currency here, in a way. Workers are often paid in bread and beer. Temples distribute it to the poor. It's survival, yes, but also comfort. The baker is a broad-shouldered man with flour dusted across his arms. He's slapping dough onto a heated stone with practiced efficiency, each motion smooth and sure. You don't stop. Not today, but you make a mental note. Maybe tomorrow. Ahead, the street widens further, and you can hear the hum. The market. Voices overlapping, sellers calling out, the shuffle of feet, the clink of metal, the low murmur of bartering. It's a sound you've known your entire life. The sound of exchange, of survival, of community. Historians still argue whether Babylon's markets were as grand as ancient texts suggest, or whether those descriptions were exaggerated by writers trying to impress. But standing here, approaching the square, you don't care about the debate. The market is real. It's loud and busy and sometimes frustrating, but it's where life happens, where deals are made, where news spreads, where you find what you need. You step into the square, and the city swallows you whole. The market square spreads before you like a living organism. Not organized, not planned, but pulsing with its own logic. Stalls cluster in rough groups. Potters near potters, weavers near weavers, but the boundaries blur and shift. Someone selling fish oil stands next to someone selling copper bangles. It works somehow. It always has. You move slowly through the crowd, shoulders brushing against strangers, eyes scanning. The ground here is harder, worn smooth by thousands of feet over hundreds of years. In some spots, the earth is almost polished. Above, cloth awnings stretch between poles, offering patches of shade. Reds, browns, undyed linen flapping gently in the occasional breeze. The sun is climbing, and beneath these canopies, the air is a few degrees cooler. Precious degrees. You head toward the grain cellar first. A woman with gray hair tied back, sitting cross-legged behind 3 large clay jars. Barley in one, lentils in another, chickpeas in the third. She's measuring portions into smaller containers, her hands quick and efficient. You approach. She looks up. Lentils, you say. She nods, scoops, pours the bronze-brown seeds into the cloth bag you've brought. You hand her 2 small pieces of silver, tiny, irregular, weighed rather than counted. Money in Babylon isn't coins. Not yet. It's weighed metal. Bits of silver, sometimes copper, measured on small bronze scales that every merchant carries. The system works, but it's slow. Every transaction requires negotiation, weighing, adjustment. Historians still argue whether this made trade more honest or just more tedious. Probably both. You move on, tucking the lentils into the woven bag slung over your shoulder. Nearby, a fish seller calls out. His stall is wet, slick with scales and river water. He's selling carp, caught fresh this morning from the Euphrates. They're laid out on palm fronds, eyes dull, mouths open. The smell is sharp, not quite rotten, but getting there in the heat. You consider it. Fish will be good tonight. But you hesitate. By evening, in this sun, they'll be risky. You shake your head and move past. Better to stick with dried fish, safer, even if it's tougher and less flavorful. Next to the fish seller, a scribe sits at a low wooden table. He's young, maybe 16, with ink-stained fingers and a stack of fresh clay tablets beside him. Two merchants stand before him, arguing quietly about a grain shipment. The scribe listens, then begins pressing his reed stylus into the soft clay, forming cuneiform characters with swift, practiced strokes. Wedge-shaped marks. Thousands of years later, people will call this writing system one of humanity's greatest inventions. But here now it's just bureaucracy. A record. A receipt. Proof. The scribe doesn't look up as you pass. He's absorbed in his work, translating spoken words into permanent marks, making the invisible visible. There's something oddly beautiful about the marketplace at this hour. Not grand, not monumental, just human. A woman haggling over the price of onions. A child clinging to his father's tunic, eyes wide at all the noise and color. An old man sitting in the shade, whittling a piece of wood into something you can't quite identify. Everyone here has a story, a reason, a need, and for a moment, standing still while the crowd flows around you, you feel connected to all of it. You notice a spice merchant arranging tiny clay bowls on a wooden plank. Cumin, coriander, dried garlic, mustard seeds. The colors are muted, browns, yellows, pale greens, but the smells are sharp and alive. You lean closer. How much for cumin? You ask. He names a price. You counter. He shrugs, adjusts slightly. You hand over a sliver of copper, smaller than your fingernail. He weighs it on his scale, a simple bronze device with two shallow pans suspended from a beam. Satisfied, he pours a handful of cumin seeds into a scrap of cloth and ties it shut. You tuck it into your bag, next to the lentils. Tonight's meal is taking shape. Across the square, you hear singing. A street performer, maybe, or a priest chanting. The voice is high and clear, cutting through the marketplace hum. You can't make out the words, but the melody is familiar. Something old, something passed down. A few people have stopped to listen. Most haven't. Life continues around the song, indifferent but not unkind. There's a strange little historical footnote about Babylonian markets. Archaeologists have found transaction records, thousands of them, detailing purchases so mundane they're almost comical. 2 onions, half a basket of dates, a single sandal. It's proof that even in a city of wonders, most of life was just life. Ordinary, necessary, small. And maybe that's the real story. Not the ziggurats or the wars or the kings. But this, the quiet transaction, the careful weighing, the walk home with a bag of lentils. You glance up at the sky. The sun is nearly overhead now. The shade is shrinking. Time to finish and head back before the heat becomes unbearable. You take one last look around the square, the faces, the voices, the motion, and then you turn toward home. The city has given you what you need. Now it's time to rest. You arrive home with your small bundle of goods. The lentils, the cumin, a few dried dates you picked up on impulse. You set them in a courtyard near the grinding stone and pause. The sun is high now, pressing down like a weight. The shadows have shrunk to almost nothing. Inside the house, the air is cooler, thick mudbrick walls doing their job, holding back the heat. But you won't stay long. Work is calling. In Babylon, almost everyone works. There's no leisure class, not really, except for the wealthiest merchants and the royal family. Everyone else, farmer, weaver, scribe, laborer, potter, wakes and works. It's the rhythm of survival. And today, like every day, you have your part to play. Let's say you're a weaver, not because it's glamorous, but because it's common. Textiles are everywhere in Babylon. Clothing, blankets, sacks, awnings, rope, linen, and wool mostly. You work from home in the courtyard where the light is good. Your loom is simple, a wooden frame leaning against the wall, vertical threads stretched tight, a shuttle in your hand. You've been weaving since you were a child. Your mother taught you. Her mother taught her. The knowledge flows like water, generation to generation. You sit on a low stool and begin. The shuttle moves back and forth, left, right, passing thread through the vertical strands. Your fingers push, adjust, tighten. The fabric grows slowly, one row at a time. It's rhythmic work, almost meditative. Your mind drifts. You think about the fish you didn't buy, the song you heard in the market, the way your neighbor's child laughed this morning. Small things, quiet things. The work doesn't require much thought, which is both a blessing and a curse. It leaves room for the mind to wander. Sometimes that's peace. Sometimes it's worry. Historians still argue about how much Babylonians actually worked. Some texts suggest a 6-day workweek with 1 day of rest. Others imply work was constant, punctuated only by religious festivals. The truth probably varied. Farmers worked when the crops demanded it. Artisans worked when they had commissions. Laborers worked when they were called. But one thing is clear, work was central, not in the modern sense of career or identity, but in the simple, ancient sense of necessity. You work to eat, to survive, to contribute, and so you weave. The sun climbs higher. Sweat begins to bead on your forehead. You wipe it away with the back of your hand and keep going. There's a piece of cloth to finish by tomorrow, a commission from a merchant who needs sacks for transporting grain. Nothing fancy, just sturdy, functional fabric. You'll be paid in barley, probably, or a small piece of silver if you're lucky. It's enough. Across the city, others are deep in their own labor. In the fields outside the walls, farmers are bent low, tending rows of barley and wheat. The irrigation ditches need constant attention. Silt builds up, reeds grow wild, water flow slows. A farmer's work is never finished. In the temple district, scribes sit in cool stone rooms, copying sacred texts onto clay tablets. Their fingers move quickly, stylus pressing into soft clay, each character a small miracle of precision. One mistake and the tablet is ruined. They must start over. Nearby, priests prepare for the afternoon ritual, washing statues, lighting incense, arranging offerings of bread and beer. The gods must be fed just like people. In the workshops along the canal, potters spin their wheels, shaping wet clay into jars, bowls, cups. Their hands are always damp, always dirty. The smell of wet earth clings to them. But when a pot emerges from the kiln, hard and smooth and perfect, there's satisfaction. Something useful, something real. You finish a section of weaving and stand to stretch. Your back aches slightly, a dull, familiar pain. You roll your shoulders, flex your fingers. Outside the courtyard, you hear a donkey bray. Someone shouts something you can't quite make out. Life continues, indifferent to your small corner of effort. There's an eccentric historical detail that always makes people smile. Archaeologists have found complaint letters written on clay tablets. One, famously, is from a customer named Nanny, complaining about the poor quality of copper ingots he received from a merchant named Nasir. The tone is indignant, almost modern. You have treated me with contempt. It's proof that some things never change. Bad customer service. Frustration. The need to vent. 4,000 years ago, someone sat down, grabbed a stylus, and wrote an angry review. And somehow, that tablet survived. A tiny, absurd monument to human irritation. You smile at the thought. The afternoon stretches on. You return to your loom, back to the rhythm. Shuttle left. Shuttle right. Push. Adjust. Tighten. The fabric grows. Slowly. Inevitably. This is work. Not exciting. Not heroic. Just necessary. And in its own way, there's dignity in that. You're part of something larger, a city that functions because everyone does their part. The weaver, the farmer, the scribe, the potter, each thread in the larger fabric of Babylon. You weave until the light begins to shift, until the sun, mercifully, starts its slow descent. The worst of the heat is passing. Soon, it will be time to stop, to rest. to prepare the evening meal. But not yet. Not quite yet. You have a little more to do. And so you continue, hands moving, mind drifting, the work unfolding one careful row at a time. By early afternoon, the heat is no longer something you can ignore. It's everywhere, pressing against your skin, thick in your lungs, radiating up from the ground. The air shimmers slightly, making distant walls look wavy and uncertain. You've done what you can with the weaving. The rest will have to wait. No one works straight through the midday heat if they can help it. Not unless they have to. Even the animals know. The donkeys stand still in whatever shade they can find, ears drooping, and the dogs lie flat against cool walls, panting softly. You leave your courtyard and head toward the canal. It's not far, 2 streets over, down a narrow path between homes, then out into open space. The canal is one of many that branch off from the Euphrates, carrying water throughout the city and into the fields beyond. It's about 10 feet wide here, the water moving slowly, almost lazily, reflecting the pale blue sky. Reed plants grow along the edges, their long, thin leaves rustling in the occasional breeze. You're not the only one with this idea. A handful of others are already here, sitting on the stone embankment, feet dangling above the water, seeking relief. An old man with a gray beard, a young woman with a baby on her hip, 2 children, maybe 6 or 7 years old, wading in the shallows, splashing each other and laughing. You find a spot a little way down and lower yourself onto the warm stone. The canal smells like earth and plants and something vaguely fishy. Not unpleasant, just alive. You slip off your sandals and dip your feet into the water. Instantly, the coolness rushes up through your legs. It's such a relief you almost sigh out loud. You lean back on your hands and close your eyes for a moment. The sun is still fierce, but here, with your feet in the water and the faint breeze stirring, it's bearable, almost peaceful. The children's laughter echoes across the canal. One of them dives under, comes up sputtering, shakes water from his hair like a dog. The other shrieks with delight and splashes him back. You watch them for a while, half smiling. There's something timeless about it. Children have been playing in this canal for generations. We'll be playing here for generations more, probably, unless the water stops flowing. But that's a thought too dark for a day like this. Historians love to talk about Babylon's water system. It's genuinely impressive: canals, dams, irrigation networks that turn a desert into farmland. Without the Euphrates and its engineered tributaries, Babylon wouldn't exist. The city is built on water, literally and metaphorically, but there's also debate. Some scholars argue the canals required constant maintenance, backbreaking labor to clear silt, repair walls, prevent flooding. Others suggest it was less burdensome than we imagine, that the system was efficient once established. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in the middle. Yes, it required work, but yes, it also worked. And sitting here, feet in cool water, you're grateful for whoever dug this channel decades or centuries ago. Grateful for the engineers, the laborers, the planners, for the unsung hands that made this moment possible. The young woman with the baby sits down a few feet away from you. She settles the child on her lap and lets his tiny feet touch the water. He squeals, surprised, delighted, and kicks. She smiles, tired but content. You nod at her. She nods back. No words, just the quiet acknowledgement of shared heat, shared relief, shared humanity. The old man further down is eating something, dates, maybe, or dried figs. He chews slowly, gazing out at the water as if it holds answers to questions he stopped asking. A dragonfly zips past, iridescent wings catching the light, then vanishes into the reeds. You shift slightly, adjusting your position. Your back still aches from the weaving, but the water helps. Everything helps a little at the edges. There's a strange little historical curiosity about Babylonian canals. Archaeologists have found evidence that people threw offerings into them. Small clay figurines, sometimes jewelry, once in a while a written prayer sealed in a jar. The canals weren't just practical. They were sacred in a way. Water is life, and life, in Babylon, is inseparable from the divine. So maybe the old man staring at the canal isn't just resting. Maybe he's praying, or remembering, or both. You let your own mind drift. Thoughts come and go like the slow current. What to make for dinner? Whether the weaving will be finished on time. That song from the market, still humming faintly in your memory. The water moves past, patient and endless. It's been moving like this for thousands of years. It will move like this long after you're gone. There's something comforting in that. Something bigger than yourself. You're just a small part of a very long story. One of the children climbs out of the water and sits on the embankment, dripping and grinning. His friend stays in, floating on his back now, staring up at the sky. The young woman's baby has fallen asleep against her chest, lulled by the heat and the water and the gentle rocking. She strokes his hair absently, her eyes half closed. You stay a while longer. There's no rush. The heat will linger for hours yet. Work can wait. Life can wait. For now, there's just this. The cool water, the warm stone, the quiet company of strangers, the slow, steady flow of the canal, and the knowledge that, for a little while at least, you don't have to move. You don't have to do. You can just be. Eventually, the sun will shift. The heat will ease, and you'll stand, slip your sandals back on, and return to the rhythm of the day. But not yet. Not quite yet. For now, you stay. Feet in the water. Eyes half closed. Breathing. Eventually, the heat begins to soften. Not much, just enough that movement feels possible again. You pull your feet from the water, let them dry in the sun for a moment, then slip your sandals back on. The stone embankment is warm beneath you as you stand. Your legs feel loose, relaxed. The children are still playing, though slower now, their energy spent. The young mother has risen and started back toward the city, baby asleep against her shoulder. You follow the path along the canal for a while, then turn inland. The streets here are wider, the buildings taller. You're moving toward the temple district. Not because you have to, but because something pulls you there. Curiosity, maybe, or reverence, or simply the knowledge that in the late afternoon, when the light turns gold, the temples are beautiful. Babylon is a city of gods. They're everywhere, in homes, in markets, in the very stones beneath your feet. But the temples are where their presence is most concentrated, most powerful. The largest is the Esagila, dedicated to Marduk, king of the gods. You can't see it yet, but you know it's there. A massive structure of mud brick and glazed tile, rising stories high, its walls adorned with images of lions, dragons, and bulls. Inside, the statue of Marduk stands in darkness, draped in fine cloth, surrounded by offerings of bread, beer, dates, and incense. Priests tend to it daily, as if the god himself were alive and present. And maybe in a way he is. You turn a corner and the street opens into a broad plaza. Here, the ground is paved with stone, smooth, uneven in places, worn by countless pilgrims. Ahead, you see the outer walls of a smaller temple. Not the Esagila, but one of the many shrines scattered throughout the district. This one is dedicated to Ishtar, goddess of love and war. A strange combination, but then Ishtar has always been complicated. A procession is moving slowly through the plaza. Not a grand one, just a handful of priests in white robes, carrying a small clay statue on a wooden platform. Incense smoke trails behind them, sweet and heavy. They chant softly, voices blending into a low, rhythmic hum. You stop and bow your head as they pass. It's instinct, habit, respect. The priests don't look at you. Their eyes are fixed ahead, focused on some invisible point. They move like they're walking through water, slow, deliberate, unhurried. Behind them, a few followers trail. Ordinary people like you. Some carry offerings, a loaf of bread, a small jar of oil, a handful of flowers. They'll leave these at the temple entrance, gifts for the goddess. Historians still argue about how much ordinary Babylonians actually believed in the gods versus how much was simply social obligation. Did people pray because they felt divine presence, or because it was expected? The answer probably is both, and also neither. Belief is complicated. It shifts and changes depending on the day, the circumstance, the depth of need. Right now, Watching the procession fade into the temple courtyard, you feel something. Not certainty, but a kind of quiet awe. You walk closer to the temple walls. They're decorated with glazed bricks, deep blues, and warm yellows, shaped into images of flowers and geometric patterns. In the late afternoon light, they seem to glow. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Each brick carefully cut, glazed, fired, then fitted into place like pieces of a puzzle. It must have taken years, decades even. And for what? To honor a goddess. To make beauty. To say, we were here. We cared. We tried. You reach out and touch the wall lightly. The surface is smooth, cool despite the heat. Nearby, an old woman sits cross-legged on the ground, a clay bowl in front of her. She's begging, though she doesn't speak. Just sits, hands folded, eyes downcast. Temples attract the poor, not just because of charity, though priests do distribute food, but because this is where people come. Where there's traffic, there's opportunity. You reach into your bag and pull out one of the dried dates you bought earlier. You place it in her bowl. She looks up, meets your eyes for a brief moment, and nods. No words, just acknowledgement. You move on. There's an eccentric detail about Babylonian temples that archaeologists love. They found hundreds of clay plaques depicting people making offerings. But some of these plaques show people bringing the strangest things: shoes, combs, even toy chariots. It suggests that offerings weren't just about value. They were personal, symbolic, a way of saying, this mattered to me, so I give it to you. Maybe the gods didn't need bread or beer, but people needed to give, needed to participate in something larger than survival, needed to believe their small gestures mattered. You walk past another shrine, this one smaller, tucked into an alcove. The figurine inside is worn smooth, features barely visible, but flowers are piled at its base, wilted, sun-dried, but carefully placed. Someone came here today. Someone believed. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across the plaza. The heat has finally broken, replaced by something softer, almost pleasant. You can hear evening prayers beginning somewhere in the distance, voices rising and falling in practice patterns. The sound is soothing, familiar, a reminder that the day is winding down. That rest is coming. You linger a moment longer, watching the light play across the temple walls, watching the smoke from the incense curl upward and disappear, watching the steady stream of people, some arriving, some leaving, all moving through their own private rituals. And you think about belief, about gods and offerings and prayers, about whether any of it matters. And then you think, maybe the question itself is wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter if the gods are listening. Maybe what matters is that you speak, that you pause, that you acknowledge something beyond yourself. You take a breath, turn, and start walking home. The temples remain behind you, glowing faintly in the golden light. Silent, eternal, waiting. The walk home feels different than the walk out. Softer, somehow. The day's sharp edges have worn smooth. The streets are filling again. People emerging from their homes now that the worst heat has passed. Children playing. Neighbors talking. The city waking from its afternoon stillness. You pass the baker's stall. He's still there, though his stones have cooled. He's wrapping leftover flatbread in cloth, storing it for tomorrow. He sees you and nods. You nod back. The small rituals of recognition that make a city feel less like a crowd and more like a community. Your street comes into view. The narrow alley with its familiar walls, its particular shadows. You know every crack, every uneven stone. This is home. You step through the doorway into your courtyard. The light here is golden, softer than before. The date palm casts delicate shadows across the packed earth. Your family is here, waiting, as they always are at this hour. Your wife is by the clay oven, coaxing it back to life. She looks up when you enter, a slight smile. You brought the lentils? You nod, setting down your bag. She reaches in, pulls out the cloth bundle, inspects it briefly. Satisfied, your son, maybe 8 years old, is sitting in the corner, scratching something into a practice tablet. Clay, soft and damp, with a blunt reed stylus. He's learning to write. Not because your family is wealthy or scholarly, but because it's useful. A boy who can read and write has opportunities. Can become a scribe, maybe or at least keep records for a merchant. He looks up. Father, how do you make the sign for barley again? You crouch beside him, take the stylus, and press it into the clay. 3 quick strokes, wedge-shaped, precise. The cuneiform character for grain. He watches carefully, then tries it himself. Close, but not quite right. You guide his hand gently, adjusting the angle. He tries again. Better. Good, you say softly. He beams. There's something deeply human about this moment. Teaching your child. Passing on knowledge. It's been happening for thousands of years, in countless homes, across every culture. And it will keep happening long after Babylon is dust. Your wife calls you over. She's preparing the evening meal, lentils, onions, a little garlic, the cumin you bought at the market. Everything goes into a clay pot over the fire. She stirs slowly, methodically. You can already smell it. Earthy, warm, savory. Was the market busy? She asks. Busy enough, you reply. I saw a procession near the Asagila. For Ishtar? I think so. She nods, stirring. Conversation in Babylon isn't always grand or philosophical. Most of the time, it's just this small updates, shared observations, the quiet weaving of 2 lives together. Historians debate what family life was really like in ancient Mesopotamia. Some texts suggest strict hierarchies, fathers with absolute authority, women confined to domestic roles. Other evidence points to more complexity, women owning property, running businesses, even serving as priestesses. The truth, as always, varies by class, by circumstance, by individual personality. But here, in your small courtyard, it feels less like hierarchy and more like partnership. 2 people, working together, raising a child, surviving. Your daughter appears in the doorway, younger than your son, maybe 5. She's been playing somewhere, her tunic dusty, her hair wild. She runs to you and wraps her arms around your leg. You ruffle her hair. She grins up at you, gap-toothed and fearless. Did you bring dates? She asks hopefully. You reach into the bag and pull out the small bundle. Her eyes light up. You hand her one. She pops it into her mouth immediately, chewing with exaggerated satisfaction. One more after dinner, you say. She nods, already eyeing the bundle. Your wife smiles, shaking her head. She'll eat nothing but dates if you let her. Could be worse, you reply. And it's true. In a world where food is never guaranteed, a child with an appetite is a blessing. The meal is ready. Your wife ladles the lentil stew into wooden bowls. She tears pieces of flatbread, left over from this morning, and sets them beside each bowl. You gather in the courtyard, sitting on woven mats arranged in a loose circle. The sky above is deepening, pale blue fading to lavender, the first stars just beginning to appear. You eat slowly, savoring. The lentils are tender, flavored with cumin and garlic. The bread is chewy, perfect for soaking up the stew. Your son talks about his writing lesson at the temple school. Your daughter chatters about a game she played with the neighbors. Your wife listens, occasionally adding a comment, mostly just present. It's not a feast. It's not remarkable, but it's enough. And there's a particular kind of contentment in that. There's a small historical detail that always strikes people. Archaeologists have found evidence of family meals in Babylon, shared spaces, communal cooking areas, even recipes that clearly served multiple people. Food wasn't just fuel. It was connection, a reason to gather, to pause, to be together. In a time without television or phones or distractions, the evening meal was everything. Story time, news time, family time. And maybe that's something we've lost. Or maybe it's something that never really changes, just takes different forms. You finish your bowl and set it aside. Your son yawns, a big, unguarded yawn that makes everyone smile. Your daughter is already leaning against your wife, eyes half closed. The day is ending. Energy is fading. Soon, it will be time to sleep. But for now, you sit together, watching the sky darken, listening to the city settle, feeling the cool evening air replace the day's heat. Your wife reaches over and squeezes your hand briefly. A small gesture, but enough. You look around at your family, tired, fed, safe, and feel a quiet gratitude. Not for anything grand, Just for this. This moment. This life. This home. The meal is cleared. Bowls rinsed with a little water and set aside. The last scraps of bread saved for tomorrow's breakfast. Your wife wipes her hands on her tunic and settles onto the mat beside you. Your son and daughter have moved to the corner, whispering and giggling about something only they understand. Above, the sky has deepened from lavender to indigo. Stars are emerging, one by one, scattered across the vastness. In Babylon, the stars are not just beautiful, they're meaningful. The priests study them, track their movements, record their patterns. They believe the gods write messages in the heavens, that the future can be read in the constellations. You're not a priest, so you don't know the intricate calculations, but you know enough to recognize some shapes. The bull, the scorpion, the path the moon takes across the sky. It's comforting, in a way, to look up and see the same stars your grandfather saw. To know your children will see them too. Some things endure. Your wife stands and moves to the small clay lamp sitting on the bench. It's a simple thing, a shallow bowl filled with oil, a twisted wick floating in the center. She strikes a flint, coaxes a spark, and the wick catches. A small flame blooms, warm and steady. The courtyard fills with soft, flickering light. Shadows dance across the mudbrick walls. Everything looks gentler now, softer, as if the world has exhaled. You hear the city settling around you, doors closing, voices lowering, the occasional bark of a dog, distant and brief. Babylon at night is quieter than you'd expect for a city of so many people. Part of it is practicality. Without streetlights, moving around after dark is difficult and sometimes dangerous. But part of it is also cultural. Night is for rest, for family, for the gods. Historians still argue whether Babylonians feared the night or simply respected it. Texts mention demons and spirits that roam after sunset. But they also describe night as a time of peace when the gods sleep and the world rests. Maybe both are true. Maybe fear and peace are not opposites but companions. Your son yawns again, this time unable to stifle it. Your wife notices. Time for bed, she says gently. He doesn't argue, too tired for protest. Your daughter follows his lead, rubbing her eyes with small fists. Together, they move to the corner of the main room where their sleeping mats are rolled out. Simple woven reeds, thin but enough. A folded cloth for a pillow. Your wife helps them settle, pulling a light blanket over each of them. Linen, worn soft from use. She murmurs something, a blessing, maybe, or just a quiet good night. Your son is already half asleep. Your daughter whispers, "Will you tell a story?" Your wife glances at you. You move closer, kneeling beside them. "A short one," you say. Your daughter nods eagerly. You think for a moment, then begin. Long ago, when the world was new, Marduk fought the great dragon Tiamat. It's a story everyone knows. The creation myth. The battle between order and chaos. You've heard it 100 times, told it a dozen. But your daughter listens as if it's the first time. Her eyes wide, even as they begin to droop. You keep your voice low, rhythmic, soothing. And from Tiamat's body, Marduk created the heavens and the earth, the stars and the rivers, and Babylon at the center of it all. By the time you finish, both children are asleep, breathing soft and even. You stand slowly, careful not to disturb them. There's something profoundly moving about watching your children sleep. The vulnerability, the trust. They believe completely that they are safe, that you will protect them, that tomorrow will come, and you will do everything in your power to make that belief true. You return to the courtyard. Your wife is sitting on the bench, staring up at the stars. The oil lamp flickers beside her. You sit down next to her, close enough that your shoulders touch. For a while, neither of you speaks. There's no need. The silence is comfortable, full rather than empty. Eventually, she says, "Do you think they'll remember days like this?" You consider. Maybe not the details, but the feeling, yes. She nods slowly. The feeling. Safety. Family. Home. Yes. You sit together, watching the lamp flame dance, listening to the quiet city, feeling the cool night air settle over everything. There's an eccentric historical detail that archaeologists find fascinating. In Babylonian homes, they've discovered small clay figurines buried beneath doorways. Protective charms, meant to ward off evil spirits. Some are shaped like dogs, others like abstract forms. It suggests a belief that the threshold, the space between outside and inside, was sacred, a place that needed guarding. And maybe that's not so strange. Home is sacred, the boundary between the chaos of the world and the safety of family, between uncertainty and rest. You glance toward the doorway now. No figurine buried there, as far as you know, but the feeling is the same. This is your threshold, your sanctuary. Your wife stands, stretching slightly. "I should bank the oven," she says. You nod. She moves to the clay oven, covering the remaining embers with ash to keep them smoldering through the night. Tomorrow morning, she'll uncover them and coax them back to flame. It's easier than starting from scratch. One of 1,000 small efficiencies that make life possible. You extinguish the oil lamp with a quick breath. The courtyard falls into darkness, broken only by starlight. Your eyes adjust slowly. Shapes become visible. The date palm, the bench, the doorway. Familiar things, rendered mysterious by night. You follow your wife inside. Your sleeping mat is already laid out beside the children's. Simple, close to the ground. Enough. You lie down, feeling the day's exhaustion settle into your bones. Your wife lies beside you. In the darkness, you can hear the children breathing. Steady, safe. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls. Once, twice, then silence. The city sleeps. And so, soon will you. But not yet. Not quite yet. For now, you simply lie there. Eyes open. Listening. Grateful. Sleep comes slowly at first. Your body is tired, but your mind still circles. Thoughts drift. The weaving you need to finish. The merchant you'll see tomorrow. The way your son's hand felt when you guided it across the clay tablet. Small things. Necessary things. But gradually, they begin to fade. Your breathing deepens. The sounds of the night wrap around you like a blanket. The distant rustle of palm fronds. The soft breathing of your children. The faint creak of the wooden beams above as they settle in the cooling air. And then, without quite realizing it, you cross over. Into sleep. Into dreams. In Babylon, dreams are not simply the brain processing the day's events. They're not random firings of neurons or meaningless images. Dreams are messages, communications from the gods, windows into the future. The priests keep dream books, clay tablets filled with interpretations. If you dream of falling, it means one thing. If you dream of water, another. If you dream of a door that won't open, still another. Ordinary Babylonians consult these interpretations, trying to decode what the gods are telling them. Historians debate how seriously people actually took this. Was it genuine belief, or just a comforting framework for understanding the chaos of the unconscious mind? But lying here, drifting between waking and sleeping, you don't care about the debate. You believe, or at least you half believe, enough to pay attention, enough to wonder. Your first dream is fleeting. You're walking through the market again, but the stalls are empty. No people, no goods, just silence. You feel a vague unease, but then the scene shifts. Now you're at the canal. The water is higher than usual, lapping at the embankment. You kneel down and cup your hands, bringing the water to your lips. It tastes sweet, clean. Someone is standing behind you. You can feel their presence, but when you turn, there's no one there. Just the empty canal path stretching into distance. The dream dissolves. You shift in your sleep, your hand reaching unconsciously toward your wife. She's there, warm and solid. Real. The dreams continue, but softer now. Less vivid. In one, you're a child again. Your mother is grinding grain, the stone making its familiar, scraping rhythm. She's humming something, a tune you'd forgotten you knew. You sit beside her, watching her hands. They're young and strong, not the way you remember them near the end. She looks at you and smiles. Everything will be fine, she says, and you believe her. In another dream, you're standing on the roof of your home. The city spreads out before you, mud brick roofs, palm trees, the glint of canal water in moonlight. And beyond, impossibly far but somehow visible, the ziggurat of Edamananke, the tower that reaches toward heaven. You've never actually seen it from this angle. You live too far away, but in the dream, it's there. Massive, solid, eternal, a stairway between earth and sky. You feel a pull toward it, a desire to climb, but your feet won't move. And then the dream shifts again. There's a peculiar detail about Babylonian dream interpretation that scholars find fascinating. Some dream omens seem deeply symbolic, water representing life, fire representing destruction. But others are oddly literal and specific. If a man dreams of eating a mongoose, he will find unexpected wealth. If a woman dreams of wearing a crown made of reeds, she will have a difficult conversation with a neighbor. Where did these interpretations come from? Who decided that a mongoose meant wealth? No one knows. But the tablets exist, hundreds of them, filled with these oddly precise predictions. And people consulted them regularly, trying to understand the messages hidden in sleep. Your dreams grow quieter now. Less narrative, more feeling. Warmth, darkness, a sense of floating. Somewhere deep in the night, you half-wake. Your son has rolled over, his small hand reaching out, finding your arm. He doesn't wake fully, just adjusts, settles, continues sleeping. You lie still, feeling the weight of his hand. So small, so trusting. For a moment, you're completely awake, aware of the darkness, the stillness, the breathing around you. You think about dreams, about messages from gods, about the strange theater of the sleeping mind, and you realize something. Maybe it doesn't matter if the gods are actually speaking through dreams. Maybe what matters is that dreams give you permission to feel things you wouldn't otherwise acknowledge. Fear, hope, longing, peace. The unconscious mind, speaking in symbols because that's the only language it knows. You close your eyes again. Let yourself drift. The final dream of the night is the simplest. You're sitting in your courtyard. The sun is warm but not oppressive. Your family is there, your wife, your children, even people who've been gone for years. Your parents, your grandparents, everyone you've loved. They're not doing anything particular. Just sitting, talking quietly, existing. And you feel, in the dream, a profound contentment. A sense that this is enough, that this has always been enough. You look up at the sky. It's perfectly clear, endless blue, unmarked by clouds. And somewhere, very far away, you hear singing. Not words, just a melody, rising and falling like breathing, like the rhythm of the canal water, like the sound of a city settling into night. You listen, and listening, you rest. When you wake, hours later, when the first gray light of pre-dawn touches the window, you won't remember most of these dreams. Just fragments, a feeling of water, a sense of warmth, your mother's smile. But that's enough, more than enough, because dreams, whether they come from gods or from some deeper part of yourself, serve the same purpose. They remind you that beneath the surface of daily life, the weaving, the bartering, the meals, the work, there's something else, something vast and mysterious. The human soul speaking to itself, trying to understand, trying to rest. For now, you sleep, deeply, peacefully, held by the darkness, held by your family, held by the ancient city around you. Babylon sleeps, and so do you. The first light arrives gently, not all at once, but gradually, a softening of the darkness, a hint of gray at the window. The stars fade one by one until only the brightest remain. And then, even those disappear. You wake before the others. Not suddenly, no alarm, no urgency, just a natural rising. Your body knows. It's time. For a moment, you lie still, listening. Your wife breathing beside you. Your children, tangled in their blankets, small and safe. The city outside beginning to stir. A door opening somewhere. Footsteps on stone. The distant call of a rooster, though you're not sure from which courtyard. Babylon is waking, and so are you. You sit up slowly, careful not to disturb anyone. Your joints are stiff, A reminder that you're not as young as you once were. But you're not old, either. Just somewhere in the middle. The long, steady middle of life where days blur together and time feels both infinite and fleeting. You stand and move to the courtyard. The air is cool, almost cold. In an hour, the sun will burn that away, but for now, it's perfect. You breathe deeply. The sky is pale blue, washed clean. A new day, the same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow. And that's not a complaint. It's a comfort. You walk to the clay jar and pour water into the bowl. Splash your face, the cold shocking you fully awake. You whisper a prayer to Marduk, brief, automatic, sincere. Thanks for the night. Protection for the day ahead. The rhythm is ancient. Your grandfather did this. His grandfather before him. Generations of hands, pouring water, whispering prayers, watching the sun rise over Babylon. How many mornings has this city seen? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how many more will it see? You don't know. No one does. But standing here, in this moment, it feels eternal. As if Babylon has always existed and always will. A fixed point in a changing world. Historians will one day argue about when Babylon truly fell. Was it when the Persians conquered it? When Alexander died within its walls? When the canals finally silted up and the fields turned to dust? Or was it earlier, slower, a gradual fading rather than a dramatic end? But you don't know any of that. You can't. To you, Babylon is immortal. The center of the world. The city of Marduk. Unshakable. Behind you, you hear movement. Your wife is awake. She joins you in the courtyard, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the morning chill. She doesn't speak, just stands beside you. Together, you watch the light grow. Watch the sky shift from pale blue to soft gold. The sun hasn't crested the horizon yet, but you can feel it coming. The world holding its breath before the day truly begins. Another day, she says quietly. Another day, you agree. It's not profound. It's not meant to be. It's just acknowledgement that you're here, that you woke up, that life continues. She moves to the oven, beginning the familiar routine, coaxing the embers back to life, preparing the morning barley. The same breakfast as yesterday, as tomorrow. But that's the point, isn't it? The repetition, the rhythm, the predictability is what makes life bearable. Knowing that no matter what happens, there will be morning. There will be water. There will be food. There will be family. Your children wake, drawn by the smell of cooking. Your daughter stumbles into the courtyard, rubbing her eyes. Your son follows, still half asleep, his hair sticking up at odd angles. They sit on the bench, leaning against each other. No words yet. They're not fully awake. Just presence. You watch them for a moment. These small people you've helped create, who will outlive you if the gods are kind, who will have their own children, their own mornings, their own quiet rituals. The chain continues, unbroken. There's something profound in that, something that transcends individual life and touches on something larger. Legacy, maybe, or continuity. The understanding that you are not alone in time. You are connected backward to your ancestors, forward to your descendants. A link in an endless chain. The sun breaks the horizon. Golden light floods the courtyard. Warm, brilliant, alive. Your daughter gasps. She does this every morning, as if surprised that the sun has returned. You smile. May she never lose that wonder. The barley is ready. Your wife portions it into bowls. You eat together, the same simple meal you've eaten 1,000 times. And it's good, not because it's fancy or special, but because it's yours, because you're here to eat it, because your family surrounds you, because the sun is shining and the city is waking in life, despite everything, continues. After breakfast, you'll return to your loom. Finish the commission. Start another. Your wife will tend to the house, perhaps visit the market. Your son will go to his lessons. Your daughter will play with the neighbors. The day will unfold, predictable and necessary. And tomorrow, it will happen again. And the day after that. And the day after that. This is life in Babylon. Not the grand battles described in royal inscriptions. Not the magnificent ceremonies or architectural wonders. Just this, the daily rhythm, the small rituals, the quiet persistence of ordinary people. And maybe that's the real story, the one worth telling. Because empires rise and fall, kings come and go. But the daily life of a city, the weaving and eating and praying and sleeping, endures. It's the heartbeat beneath the history, the truth beneath the monuments. You stand and stretch. The day is calling. Work awaits. But before you begin, you pause. Look around your courtyard one more time. The date palm, the clay oven, the water jar, your family finishing their breakfast, the sky, infinite and blue. And you feel it again, that quiet gratitude. Not for anything grand, just for this moment, this life, this city, Babylon, your home. You take a breath, and then you step forward, into the day, into the work, into the endless, beautiful rhythm of living. The sun climbs higher. The city hums with voices and movement. And you, one small person among thousands, play your part, weaving your thread into the vast tapestry of Babylon, a thread that will hold even after you're gone, even after the city itself fades into memory. Because some things endure, not in stone or clay, but in the quiet repetition of daily life. In the morning prayer and the evening meal, in the children who learn from their parents and teach their own children in turn, in the eternal rhythm, the heartbeat, the breath of humanity living. Rest now. Your day in Babylon is complete. Tomorrow, it begins again. But tonight, rest. Dream of water and sunlight. Dream of your children's laughter. Dream of the endless sky above the endless city. Dream of home, and know that you are held by history, by family, by the ancient earth beneath your feet. You are part of something vast, something that was and is and will be. Sleep well, traveler. You've walked through Babylon. You've lived a day in the greatest city on earth. And now it's time to let go, to drift, to rest. Sweet dreams.